Welcome back to Jay's Smokehouse and the History of Shrooms series, psilocybin and the war on drugs, all the way to the present. Now this is going to be the last episode in the History of Shrooms series, and then I will be coming back with the extended History of Cannabis series, with much longer episodes with more in-depth episodes. Now if you'd like to see an extended History of Shrooms series, please let me know, and I'll look into doing that right after my extended History of Cannabis series. Now I'm going to be referring to episode 14 in my History of Cannabis series, and that is because that episode covers the war on drugs with Nixon also, and there's a lot more information on there with Nixon and his speeches. Now by this time in 1971, Richard Nixon had already been leveraging fears for many years over shrooms and cannabis, with really biased research and information. Now here's one interesting thing with cannabis. The health department requested for cannabis to be put on Schedule 1 in 1971 because they wanted to do more research to really determine if cannabis should be decriminalized or not. Richard Nixon jumped on the fact that the United States had already banned psilocybin, and then the UN also did it in 1971. It seems that he used this and jumped on the war on drugs. The war on drugs covered many substances, but particularly shrooms and cannabis. Now, eventually that report did come out on cannabis in 1972. And here's the really messed up thing. The Schaefer report actually suggested that cannabis should be decriminalized. However, it never was. What that says to me is it didn't matter what reports came out on either shrooms or cannabis, it was going to remain illegal. And I think we all know why. Now, the U.S. Controlled Substances Act was passed in 1970. However, it wasn't enacted until May of 1971. And so what it seems is that Nixon was just counting down the clock to wait for this enactment to start his war on drugs. And we all know how effective the war on drugs was. But here's the interesting thing. Only the compounds psilocybin and psilocin were made illegal, not the actual fungi. Therefore, the spores and mycelium were still legal to buy and sell. And that's why you can still buy and sell them today. Now, mycelium and spores can actually carry psilocybin in very rare cases. And this little caveat is why it was very difficult to prosecute people for shrooms. Now, the war on drugs almost worldwide caused a hiatus on all research on psilocybin altogether. So really there's no information for the next 30 years. And so the next time you really see anything with psilocybin is in 1997 with the University of Zurich in Switzerland. Now this first modern research post-war on drugs was conducted at the University of Zurich by Dr. Franz Vollenweider. He led a team of researchers who explored the possibility that those under the influence of psilocybin mimicked those who had chronic schizophrenia. However, they found the complete opposite, and the differences were vast. They actually found that psilocybin increased brain activity, or cerebral glucose metabolism, in many areas of the brain, and even had some dampening effects on the ego-influenced default mode network. Now we really need to thank Dr. Franz Vollenweider, his team, and even the University of Zurich for really paving the way for numerous institutes to really enact their own research on psilocybin that even continues today. Now this list includes the Heffer Institute, the Beckley Foundation, and even Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins' most recent psilocybin research actually started in 2020, so it's very recent. All of these studies had discovered that psilocybin can treat so many psychological issues ranging from cluster headaches all the way to neuralgia. So there are so many promising things with psilocybin coming out for people with PTSD and people with so many psychological issues. It's so amazing what they're finding out. And personally, as a combat veteran with PTSD myself, I am really intrigued at what I am seeing with psilocybin, with PTSD, and other psychological issues in particular. Now, if you enjoyed this video or this series, or you learned anything, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you think. And also, please don't forget to subscribe. I have so much more coming out in the future. The history of cannabis extended, and then the history of shrooms extended, possibly, if you guys let me know if you want it. And so please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you can stay up to date with videos coming out in the future. And now, as always, Jay is going to go smoke a J.